Hello people, let's do this. Ranking tier list. It's been a while. We're live. If you haven't hit the notification bell, you're an idiot because you could have been here. We're going to go through a gorgeous little tier list and just get yourself comfy. Okay, get yourself a drink because we are going to be able to go through every single Premier League club, take our time and decide just who's got it going on. Can you tell I'm excited? You should be able to. I am! Let's go. It's been a minute, isn't it? So let's dive into it straight away. I did have some worries with the tiers, but I think what's really interesting here as I'm going through everyone is it's one where I really feel like we're in a position here where it's going to be a really nuanced conversation. So get involved. I'm intrigued to hear what you've got to say because I think you can spin absolutely everything. And of course, we're going to talk about some of the deals that could still happen between now and the end of the season. So we've got winning the window. And at the end, I want you to do your vote in terms of who you think is winning the window so far. Obviously, there's still some moves to be made and we'll discuss that as well. So what's happening here? The reason I've gone with a northern accent is because I couldn't fit something. So we've gone with summits. So there you go. Good, but is it good? Bit of nuance there. Yeah, that's right. If you want it just to be black and white, go somewhere else. Standing still. Now, I nearly turned this into sort of sensible soccer because actually, weirdly, some of these clubs have had good windows in my mind, or you could put it forward that way, despite not spending that much or even losing very important assets. So I think that's worth exploring as well. And something could go wrong here. Now, most of these teams are pretty switched on these days. What I am going to do, in a bit of a twist, is we're going to kick off with Wolves. Because Wolves fans and fans of the lower reaches of the alphabet never get the love they deserve. We're going to be able to go around the grounds, by the way, as we have a look at the transfers in and out. And this is the most updated one. We've got the squads of different teams as well. So this is Wolves. And I think what it will do is it'll give you a bit of a different kind of look on the amount of players they've got in different positions. But if you take an even closer look, you can see just how strong they are in different positions. Because I think the importance, obviously, is going to be not just the players you've got, but the backup players that you've got as well. So Wolves is one where there's still a few decisions to be made in terms of the squad. And actually, I think what's interesting here is in terms of the expenditure and the problems that they've had, if they can stay up this season, that is actually success once again, because with the players that they brought in, Rodrigo Gomez, Pedro Lima, Tommy Doyle, and Strand Larsen, it's not for a lot of money. And obviously, in terms of the players that have gone, Pedro Neto and Max Kilman, that's a lot of money. So at the moment, the money that they've brought in, 107 million euros, the transfer record overall, they're in net profit. And I think in terms of the long term of Wolves, this is a good step in the right direction. And so it's a weird one. And I think what we're doing here is we're putting a lot of pressure actually on Gary O'Neill because there's a squad of solid players there. I'm slightly concerned between now and the end of the window that João Gomez will go. And if that happens, that's, I think, something to be slightly concerned about. Ramsdale's been linked with going to them amongst other suitors as well. But Jose Sarr is not a problem there. So I find that not strange, but slightly strange, if I'm honest. So I think, if I'm honest, when it comes to the tier list and Wolves, for me, it does feel like it's on the shoulders of Gary O'Neill when we look at the squad itself here and the quality that's there throughout. There's some good players and actually quite a lot of strikers here, which is interesting. But overall, I don't think they've moved forward. They've lost two big players. I think, if anything, they've probably gone backwards. Is it an uh-oh? I don't think it is an uh-oh. I think they are standing still, though, but they're standing still because they've got a great manager in Gary O'Neill. Time will tell. Good point there, by the way, by Joshua. Do you think Wolves need a different profile of striker to Larsen? I think that's a fair point. I think if you think of Hee Chang Huang, he's a player that can kind of run beyond. I think they want that focal point in Larsen. I think it's one where, if we talk about Nottingham Forest, which we'll get to, of course, it's a similar one where you've got strikers. Do you want someone who can work the channels as well as hold up the ball? So maybe, look, we all want a complete player. But yeah, I think it's time will tell. You've gone big for a while, haven't you? Galadzic being another one of those examples. Okay, let's keep moving on forward. And we'll carry on. We'll make our way to West Ham. Now, West Ham. Intéressant. That's French for interesting. Can you tell I'm excited? They've brought in a lot of players and they've spent a lot of money. I do have some concerns. And do you know, if I'm going to just initially put them in this area right here, which is good, but is it good? The one concern I have about West Ham is if you're going to buy these players, I think the age bracket of most teams now, they're pretty smart in terms of the players that they're bringing in. West Ham have gone old. They have gone old. And they have spent a lot. 144 million euros at the time of recording. But the quality is certainly there. You know, Fulkrug, you've spent 27 million euros. You're not going to get that back. So you want, 3-4 good years from him, ideally. Max Kilman, 27. You've spent a lot of money on him. That's a big buy. And again, you're not going to sell him for that much more because, again, you'd ideally have him for another 3 years. But I guess centre-backs can be a little bit different. Wan-Bissaka, 26. So the age range, Guido Rodriguez, 30. So some of these players that are coming in are that little bit older, and that does concern me. And it's one where it's like, not set and forget, but you've got to kind of stick with this group now for a little bit, I think. But what is interesting here is if we move to this one. With West Ham, what I do like when you work your way through is the quality overall in the squad. And I think the difficult thing here is life's for living. So if you're going to be West Ham, you want to go and try and break into that top six. If you break into that top six, then you continue to get more European football. Maybe you could do something outrageous this season, get yourself in the Champions League. I know that's a huge push. But when we go through it, in pretty much every position, I would say, aside from maybe left back, you've got two solid Premier League performers, and you've got a huge amount of experience in there as well. Salah is another player that could come in, which would be really, really interesting. People saying audio. Is anything off? Mic cutting out. Oh, God. Well, fingers crossed we're all right. Hang on. Pray for me. Hopefully everything's all right. I think it's one where it's a good squad. And I think you could say that something's happening here. And I think if you want to be positive, I think you do say that. I think they're all good pros. And therefore, I think you could be in between either of these two. It's good, but is it good? Or something's happening here. Okay. I'm going to go something's happening here because I want to be positive about West Ham. I do like West Ham. And I think, what are they supposed to do? You've got a big stadium. You've had European football. They could have gone younger. They certainly could have gone younger. That is for sure. But they haven't. So I'm happy with this. I think something's happening here. I'm intrigued to know what you guys have to say about it as well. But lots of good centre-backs, lots of good players overall, and just some good transfers, Speaking of successful transfers, I'd like to talk to you about Surfshark, today's sponsor. Surfshark is a VPN, a virtual private network. It keeps your online data safe by encrypting all of the data between the device and the internet. And this is crucial when using public Wi-Fi, as it keeps those pesky cyber criminals at bay, but it's also crucial if you want to make a transfer. And by transfer, I mean change your real location to any location around the world. That's over 3,200 servers in over 100 countries. Now, why would you want to do that? The reason why you want to do that is to enjoy, let's say, the Netflix libraries of Japan, USA, Australia. Or if you're on holiday, you often can't watch your favourite sporting event, but with Surfshark, you can change your IP address back to the UK and get yourself tucked in to some Sky Sports, some TNT, some BBC iPlayer, whatever you may wish. A Surfshark VPN is crucial for so many reasons. Another one, masking your IP address is essential in becoming private online. A VPN ensures your city, country, and download history isn't linked to your identity. And Surfshark's clean web features blocks ads, phishing attempts, tracking, and malware, allowing you to surf the web safely. And the final thing that sets Surfshark apart and provides even more value is that you can use your Surfshark's VPN on unlimited devices. So if you currently don't have a VPN, get yourself one. It makes sense to have one to watch what you want wherever you want to safely. Take a look at the link in the description to get yourself an extra 4 months for free using my promo code Allcott. That's ALLCOTT for 4 months extra for free. Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there is absolutely no risk. So why not give Surfshark a go? Thanks, James, and thank you, Surfshark. Back to it then. Tottenham, right. Tottenham, it's good, but is it good? Now, on initial reflection, I thought they'd had a decent window, Tottenham. But it does rest on the shoulders of Solanke in terms of having a good window. Now, we've done a video on Solanke. It's a great video. Go check it out. It's really good, especially the stuff he does off the ball as well as on the ball. Sounds a bit naughty, but it's not. But what I like about Tottenham is Archie Gray, Odebear, Bergvall. You're going to get your money's worth from those three. And you've also got a pathway into the first team. You've got You've got European football, which is going to be helpful in terms of their development as well. So I think that's great. What they are doing for between now and the end of the window is supposedly focusing on player sales. And so if we scroll down a little bit, 148 million spent and 50 million brought in so far. So 98 million in the red at the time of recording. And what I fear with them is that in terms of focusing on players to come in and the money you're going to make, you've only made 50 so far, and I don't see much more money coming through the door. Jed Spence, maybe, has he already gone? Maybe he's already gone. But otherwise, I think Brennan Johnson you're going to stick with for now. Richarlison maybe if you could get some money, but I think he wants to stay there and fight. Otherwise, everyone in that squad, Lo Celso's always one that's kind of mooted with a move, and he might go. But yeah, I just wonder. I think there's a lot of... You've spent a solid amount of money on Solanke. I think it's a good buy. I do think it's a really, really good buy. But I think it's one where when it comes to the tier list and overall... I'm excited, not that excited that something's happening here. I think they could finish third, but I actually have a high opinion of Tottenham anyway. So I think that second layer, Timo Werner, just finishing that off as a signing just seems very odd to me. So I'm going to go, it's good, but is it good? Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about that one. Let me know. And if you are watching and enjoying yourself, do me a favour, hit the notification bell. I'm not going to ask anything else. Don't have to subscribe. Hit the notification bell, which is kind of subscribing anyway. I've done you there, haven't I? Southampton. Now, Southampton, I think this is going to be really cruel to Southampton. And I think this is where I was talking about at the start of the video about the kind of nuance of, one, this video, two, the transfer window, three, transfers in general these days, is that Southampton have got in the red by 72 million. Okay. But I think it's been sensible. I think the way they've behaved has been sensible. Cameron Archer coming in, Ugo Chukwu, I think that's how you say it, forgive me if it's wrong. Oh, there he is. Ugo Chukwu has come through as well. I think that's a really good loan that could make a massive difference in terms of the market value of a player. You can see him there. He's got worth 25 million. One of those Chelsea guys to sort of come in and be an effective player in that midfield and go and get those games, of which they've had some real positive moments over the last few years in terms of players going to Southampton and thriving. I am a believer in Armstrong up top, but to bring in Cameron Archer I think is good. I think what he's gone through last year at Sheffield United I think will be good for him, and I do think they bought well overall. I do. What makes it so difficult is that you then kind of look at the squad and you are still fearful of them. I think it's one where will Russell Martin be seen as a Gary O'Neill in a year's time because he's kept them absolutely safe? Are there a few more loans that can take place to sort of help them? I think they could do with... I'm intrigued to see what happens with Bella Kotchup in the centre-back position. But I think overall, it's one where I kind of actually, do you know what, as I'm talking about it, let me know. It's one of two things. It's either uh-oh or something's happening here. It's literally as severe as that, because regardless of how well they've done, when you are a newly promoted team, you've got to make some enormous moves to stay in the division. And despite being 72 million in the red, they've still got a squad that I think most people would expect to go down. But that feels harsh to put them in, So we're talking about more on the pitch than what they could have done. I think in terms of what they could have done, I think they've been sensible with the experienced players. They're probably on like solid wages, but didn't cost any in terms of transfer fees. And then they've brought some players in as well. It is quite a big squad. I will say that. I will say that much. Of that, I'm sure. Got to turn to Jim White there for a second. Apologies to everyone. Look, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, by the way, I think is an absolute coup. I think he, at 22, that's a really great shout. Cameron Archer's a Prem player in waiting. I know he's obviously played last year as well, but he hasn't totally, done the business in the Premier League. But I think he is. Flynn Downs exactly the same. Do you know what? Brenton Diaz, I like him as well. I'm starting to change my mind on Southampton. I don't think they're standing still, because I think that squad overall, even if they go down, they're going to bounce back up. It's good, but is it good? What are we saying? It's good, but is it good? I think a lot of people are saying that. Yeah, we'll go there. Ryan Manning of QPR fame is there. Thank you for that. Good point. I'll go, he's good, but is he good? And of course, remember, you will make a change at the end of this video. Okay, who is next? Nottingham Forest. That's Nottingham Forest. And the more I look at Nottingham Forest, the more I like their squad. I think, do you know what's a massively underrated loan signing? Moreno, I really, really like him. I'm sure an Aston Villa fan will put me straight in terms of what's wrong with him. But whenever I've seen him play, I've always really, really enjoyed him. And in terms of a sale, Niakate, to get 31 million euros for him, I think that's pretty decent as well. I think that's really good. 23 million for Mangala as well. I don't hate that. And obviously, a cheeky bit of PSR going on there with Vlachodimos, and then the other way around being Elliot Anderson. But again, look, in terms of the players that you're getting, okay, Elliot Anderson today isn't worth 40 million, but I think with games experience, bit of time, he's a 21-year-old that I think at the very worst you probably get 30 million for in a few years' time. So I don't hate it. I don't have a problem with it. And again, in terms of the age of the squad as they look to grow, and I think it's a big year for them, you've got a squad there that has got players that have got a lot of potential, but are also kind of coming to an age where they, should do the business and can do. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White, Alanga. You've kept a hold of all of them. They haven't been pinched. And then, you're starting to sort of build it up a little bit. Nketiah is the one that they've been linked with. I don't hate the Nketiah shout. I think I nearly like it. I guess the point is that you've got Chris Wood, who's not getting any younger despite him being brilliant for them, and actually overall, phenomenal buy. It's funny how it can change for him. And Awani, who is such a good player, but can't seem to always stay fit for a long period of time. So with Nketiah, you've got someone who can hold the ball up. I think technically he's got better over the last 2 years. I think he's got a point to prove. I think he's got that coldness in front of goal as well. I think that would be a good move for him. I guess the question will come down to how much money that will cost and how much is that going to hurt them in terms of being sensible, which I know isn't sexy, but it is important when it comes to it. So, when it comes to Nottingham Forest, I actually think they're going under the radar maybe a little bit. And who knows where people are going to end up at this season. But I think their squad building is looking better and better. And they kind of started to level out. And people just sort of getting angry at the previous years. They kind of need to move on from that. Something's happening here. I wonder. I think overall, in terms of the transfer window, having to do the PSR deals and stuff like that, a season of standing still, they would be okay with that. I'm tempted to go here. I might come back and change that. Nottingham Forest confused me a little bit. After all those positives, I can't put them in standing still. No, I think they're moving forward. I do. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Newcastle. That was a Geordie accent, by the way. Now, frustrating time for the Geordies, for Tsunami. I'm getting mixed up with my accents now because that's Yorkshire. Obviously, haven't been able to bring in many players. And look, between now and the end of the window, will they go and get Gay? Who knows? If they don't, again, it's sort of like the sensible soccer thing where it's only so much they can do at the moment. Losing Minte, I think they'll be obviously a bit gutted about that, but to sell both those players and then being a net profit of 8 million is, cutting your cloth accordingly. I think in terms of Lloyd Kelly, I like him, and to get him as a free transfer, I think that's really good for someone who's 25. Overall, look, it's been disappointing, I think, because they want to be able to spend more money. And I think it's a pretty simple one. I think standing still is fair, but I think they sort of stepped forward so much, didn't they, over the previous years, that it's one where you're going to go, okay then, it's fine. I'm interested to see what... By the way, Trippier, do you want to sell him? He was a god, wasn't he, a year ago? Now you seem to want to get rid. I don't hate it. I think you've got Livramento waiting in the wings. That's the whole point, isn't it? But how do you feel about it? So I'm going to put him in standing still. Next up, we are off to Manchester United. So, we have Ugarte looks like it's going to be done. We have done a video on that. That might be out by the time you're watching this, so go check that one out, because although we put him forward as a player for Man United, and I think he can be a success, I don't think it will be as clear-cut as people think. We've gone into big detail on that, so go check out that video when you get a chance. For Man United, look, you've got to sort of walk before you can run, And what we've got to say is when it comes to Man United and the players that they brought in, it's a step. I think overall it is a step in the right direction. And what's crucial here, I think, is, look, Mazraoui, I think you've got a good deal there. I think actually with all of these, money-wise, and actually, God, you can actually see it, actually. Apart from Lenny Yoro, who of course is 18, so you're going to that's worth the money itself for someone who's really going to develop into being a really quality player. But what would have been a huge concern and would have led to a lot of noise was the fact that if you don't get that second centre-back and someone who can not just step in and play in the Premier League, but play for Man United, this is Man United. And Matthijs de Ligt, I think, is a wonderful player to bring in at 25. Obviously has leadership qualities. I think he needs to feel a bit more valued, maybe, than he has done in the past few years. And I think at Man United, I think he can really kind of draw a line and go in the next 5 years and be a really, really strong component in a Man United team that's starting to move forwards in the right way. As I say, Mazraoui, I think you got him on good money there. Xerxes, again, really good money, and we've seen the quality that he can provide. And they're all at the right age, I think. I think Fergie would be proud. The thing I would say is that the expenditure is a solid amount, 164 mil. And if we scroll down, I think the idea was that you just want to bring enough, you want to make a little bit more money. Now, Mason Greenwood, I think you need to get away from him being associated with the football club. So if you can get yourself 26 million, if we're being ruthless, like you take that and just let that go. Wan-Bissaka, 70 million euros, I think is about fair for a 26-year-old. Can you bring in a bit more money when it comes to Scott McTominay? Is that even worth doing? There's some big decisions to be made there. I think you might have thought that Harry Maguire might go as well, but I'm intrigued to see how that one plays out. I think it's one where time will tell. I think something is starting to happen here. I must be honest. I'm intrigued to know what you guys think in the chat. I do think it is starting to happen with the mix between, and Ugarte coming in as well. As I say, I have question marks about Ugarte. Go and watch that video to find out more about that one. And I think there are a few question marks around the other guys. But I think in terms of an overall steady package and, starting to sail in the right direction, I think something is happening here. I think it's up for grabs, though. No, go on. I'm going to give it to him for now. I am. Right, who's next? Man City, of course. So Gundogan coming in. I mean, that was something that's a crack we had, wasn't it? And now it's gone. Heartbreak. Because we just want it to be interesting, don't we? I mean, it shows as well in terms of like bringing money in, the fact that they have brought in money. Look, one deal that they didn't want to do in terms of Alvarez making way. And I think what might be interesting here, and I was just thinking about this on the way here to do the video. I know it's my own house, but I'd been somewhere else. I wonder if Raheem Sterling might make his way back on loan or something. Because what we saw in that first game is a bit of a desire to sort of stay wide and get to the byline. We did a video on that one, talking about that being a 7-year tactic. And in that 7 years ago, Raheem Sterling was part of that. In terms of being a squad player, I wonder if it's one where, in terms of bringing in a striker, maybe that they might do. And there's a lad from Celtic being linked with them. But they might even go down this road where, okay, we're not going to have another striker after Haaland, and we're going to do what we used to do back in the day and have a false nine. And you've got likes of Gundogan, or you can play Foden there, De Bruyne there. God, if you have to, Bernardo Silva, Grealish can play centrally as well. Even Raheem Sterling has played as a centre forward. So I'll keep an eye on that. I do wonder. That's it, Kyogo. There we land, Marino. Interesting. By the way, we've done Jaffin today. It'll be out tomorrow. And we've got a whole list of amazing alternatives to There We Land. So make sure you go check that out. But yeah, for them to bring in 116 million transfer profit this window is 91 million. And so even if they don't spend that much, it's still pretty crazy stuff. And Gundogan to get him on a free, even at his age, I think is pretty decent. I've got to be honest. So I think it's pretty good, man. Something's always happening at Man City. And, there's obviously so much talk about Man City all the time. But then in terms of the squad that they have now and how they get things done, it is very, very good. It is very, very good. So something is continuing to happen. Remember, this winning the window, there can only be one. And you guys will help me decide that. Sterling to Arsenal seems a no-brainer to me, says West Ham United Harry. Yeah, it's a good shout. Maybe to play on the right instead of left. I don't hate it at all. And again, we give some other options in the Jaffin that goes out tomorrow. Liverpool. Now, again, if I'd had a sort of standing still, sensible kind of soccer tier, I think you could put Liverpool in there, because it's like, if you can't get the 6 that you want, don't do that. Do you know what I mean? Don't spend money that you don't want to spend money on players that you don't know, that you're not absolutely certain are going to really, really take to the next level. I appreciate the frustration for Liverpool, but what I would say is it's still a good squad, and it's a young squad. It's going to be interesting to see if Joe Gomez makes way. Been a few rumours about him moving on, but it shows that the squad's been built quite well over the last few years. Yes, there is that missing piece. I appreciate that. And Zubamendi, we did a video on him, and he's wonderful, and he would have been great. I think you've got to go overall, because in terms of you got a new manager. Look, there's a general rule that you don't. One thing you don't do with a new manager is just let them bring in players, but let them bring in one. So I would say you've got to chuck them in. If I'm honest, just because you've literally not signed anyone. I know. I get that Mamadashvili is going to come in, but you haven't sold Kelleher yet, and Alisson is obviously going to be your number one, so he's not actually going to be involved at all. And you've lost Adrian, so I think it's fair enough that it's an on this occasion. Leicester City. So Steve Cooper has said that there's some players going to be coming in. Now, I've got in trouble with this one in the past. I did have a quick look. Jordan Ayew has been linked. I have previously tweeted saying I'm surprised he's still a Premier League player. He then went on to score more goals than he's ever scored once I said that. So, maybe that could happen again. And he scores 20 goals. Leicester are fine. But at the time of recording, I've got to be honest, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I do like D. Cordova-Reid because he's just a bloody good pro, isn't he? Just nice pro. Fatou you obviously had to bring in. Skip, I think, will be fine, but you can't. I know. Is he going to blow the league away? I don't know. It's a difficult time for Leicester. And so, again, look, if you can survive, maybe it's one where you can't really go too crazy with it all, to be honest. And look, you made 35 million off Dewsbury Hall, which I think, was that worth it? That would be a question that I have as well. I think they need a striker between now and the end. Is Jordan Ayew the answer to that? Again, I wonder. I do wonder. Patson Daka, Tom Cannon and Jamie Vardy being three strikers right now. But overall, it's not as bad as I first thought. I do worry about Vestergaard and Wout Faes as the two centre-backs. The centre-back position overall looks a bit shaky, if I'm honest. Yeah, it feels like an for me. And I know I've been down on Leicester, and I apologise to all Leicester City fans. But I just have to. I've got to go with what I feel. I really must. Ipswich Town, the only promoted team we've yet to talk about. Let's talk about them. You know what? I bloody love a bit of Ipswich Town. Just not because it's they're back and they're not in a patronising way. I think what they're doing is kind of fun and clever, where they're kind of going on. They're seeing past a cynical mindset, if that makes sense. Let me explain. So, of course, they've got to spend a bit of money, and they are 83 mil in the red. And that's before Brozier's going to come in, so that's another 30 on top. But Sami Szmodics, now, if you're going to get a striker that scored 30 goals in the Championship, and you can get him for 10 million euros, I think, go on then. I mean, I guess he's attacking midfielder or a striker, I get it. But, even if it's someone who even if he comes on and scores goals for you, that could be absolutely integral. Liam Delap, and then you've got players with Jacob Greaves. I think there's a hidden gem in him in the sense that for the last 4 years he has played at pretty much 30 games a season, if not more. And so he's got a lot of experience, despite being 23. Amari Hutchinson, we know, is an incredible talent, and so even if you go down and come back up, I think that's something you've got to just be ready for and understand. Ben Johnson, steady Premier League performer. You got him on a free transfer. Brozier as a striker is another good option that I think even if you go down, you might be able to sell if you need to do it. Muric I like as well. Calvin Phillips, in terms of the stock being low, a bit like Liam Delap, whose stock I think overall is low despite having the pedigree of being at Manchester City. Calvin Phillips is an incredible signing. And so they're giving it a bloody go. And I like that. And so I'm going to say that something's happening here. Because if they stay up by the skin of their teeth after 2 bloody promotions, that's pretty impressive. And I think they're giving it a go with clever signings that even if you go down, it's not the end of the world. Or you're going to have assets that I think you could easily sell on. I think they're doing well. Brozier is only permanent if they stay up, which again I think is smart. And I've seen a lot of that. There's a lot of like a loan with an obligation to buy. You better buy him instead of an option to buy. Interesting. We carry on. Fulham. Now, the Fulham Crystal Palace Anderson thing is really, really interesting to me. Really, really interesting to me. Shows us, look, if you look at, all the other squads that we've got here, Fulham's squad is tight, but the overall quality is pretty steady there. If you look throughout it. Anderson coming in 28, so he's still got a good few years left. Premier League proven, rarely gets injured, touching wood for you guys. Not that kind of wood. Although I am excited about him as a signing. And then when you think of Crystal Palace and what they're doing with Lacroix, I think Lacroix is a really, really exciting player. And I've got a theory on Crystal Palace. We'll get to them. But in terms of Fulham, we're starting to get there. Sander Berge. I don't think he's totally the answer in terms of what you need in terms of a Pellegrini replacement, but you're not going to absolutely get that. So I think you might just be one of the really fun teams this year. Let's have a look at some of the players that you brought in overall. 11 million down, so you've not spent too much money. Of course, this is before Anderson gets done. Emil Smith-Rowe obviously coming in, and I think if he can be fit and firing, that would be, that'd be obviously great. It's a solid amount of money, but we know there's a talent there as well. I think a nice, steady one. I'm not sure I'd go with something's happening here. Is it? They've got a really good manager as well. I'm slightly curious. It's good, but is it good? I'm kind of putting them in the Forest bracket in terms of, I think there's a lot of talent there. Can they keep it together? It's probably a small squad. That's one thing, but I'm going to put them there for now because I think it's something to be positive about. Which I didn't say like a couple of weeks ago. I think Anderson as well is like, right, you're sorted now. You don't have to worry about centre-back. And I think that's brilliant. Lack of striker options is a really interesting shout, actually. Let's have a quick look at that. You've got Carlos Vinicius, Raul Jimenez, Muniz, Jay Stansfield. You get what you're saying. There's a lot of talent behind it in Iwobi, Pereira, Smith-Rowe, Harry Wilson, and Traore is obviously a different kind of player. So that should hopefully kind of address the balance when it comes to that. But I get your point. Yeah, maybe it's good, but is it good? Thanks for that. Good point. And that's what we do here. We work as a team to get tier lists correct. And it is correct. Right, Everton. Everton, I would say, are standing still. I think there's been a gentle move forward in the sense of I like Ndiaye. I think that gives more creativity. Lindstrom, I think, will do well for them overall. You've made some good money as well. Obviously, you've spent a little bit. Spent 50, brought in 83, which I think to get 12 million is pretty solid for Ben Godfrey. It aligns with his market value according to Transfermarkt. Amadou Onana, I think 60 million euros is solid and fair for a 22-year-old. Maybe could have got a little bit more. If you're pushing it. But I think you've got enough quality in midfield to kind of get around that, if it makes sense, especially in the Sean Dyche side. Timur Bunam, I think, has huge potential if you can get it right. Made a lot of tackles in that first game of the season. You've got James Garner, players like that. And as Jake O'Brien, huge potential there. And Ndiaye and Lindstrom, you've got that little bit more creativity as well. So I don't think you've gone backwards, but I'm not sure you've gone like crazy forwards. But I think the reason for that is obviously you got to be clever with what you're doing, right? Who's next? Crystal Palace. Okay, so my Crystal Palace theory is that it's not even about this season. It's maybe about next season. And it's also about becoming, you're not going to like this, a Brighton. Becoming a Brentford, where you get these great players from the Championship. They are great players. You see that, you give them a platform to do that, and then you sell them for good money. And the amount of money that you bloody want. Also, with Lacroix coming in, and also with Anderson and Gay being two sellable assets there, the problem you have is they're both centre-backs. And centre-backs go for less money. So if you think of your squad and you go, right, I've got 3 stars in every team, right? 2 of their stars are centre-backs. So if those 2 stars were strikers, you'd get a lot more money. And sadly, you're not going to get that. So, but in terms of kind of fixing that problem, you can probably fix it for a lot cheaper as well. So go and sell those players for a solid amount of money whilst you can. And with Anderson being 28, go and spend that, get 30 million or whatever it is. Spend 50 million on a player that you think can be just as good in time. Give them a chance. And the same with Gade, like hold out and make sure people know that this is what we're about and it's going to cost this amount. And then in a year's time, I think if you sell those two, I'll be surprised if Eze goes. But I think it's one where then when you do sell Eze, you're going to do it for the amount that you want, not for the amount that someone else wants. And yes, there's a risk with that. There is a risk with that. And so I want to know what people say. Is it what is it when it comes to Crystal Palace? But I think with a great manager as well, it's maybe a little bit like Wolves in the sense of like, you're going to sell those guys because selling is good, in the words of Ali Maxwell. You've got to sell money you got to cellulate, to speculate, as it were. And so it's weird. It's a weird one. In terms of players that they brought in, obviously not a huge amount. Kamada is a free transfer. Again, if you can get through this season, and it sounds really, really heartbreaking when you think of the squad at the start of the season, I think it's got to be done. It's that's how I feel about it. So probably standing still, but but bringing in a trampoline to put in front of you that you can then jump on instead of being in front of a trampoline and trying to go forwards. See what I mean? So let me just explain that. So you've got the trampoline, right? If the trampoline's behind me, how am I supposed to go? I can't go as far forward as if stay with me, as if I've put the trampoline there and it's in front of me, I can then go boing. That's Crystal Palace. You're welcome. Football analysis. Smash that like button. Right, it's the one you've come for. Chelsea. Right, let's zoom out. look, sorry, okay, right. This is the example, right? Both clubs in West London in the Premier League, right? Fulham. Chelsea. That is sizable. Wowee. Now, look, Maresca's made it very clear. There's 21 people in the squad. The rest are going to have to go. And interestingly, when you actually look at the kind of money that they're spending and bringing in, 96 million in the red, apparently. Income of 145 million. Maatson, Gallagher, Hall, Murray Hutchinson. Brought in some money there, I guess, right? It's the quantity of players, as we know, but, is there a reason behind it all? Probably. You got your first team, you got your reserves. The reserves go on loan. They go up in value. You either sell them or you bring them into the first team squad. It's like a sort of like feeder club within a club. That could be that's the strategy, maybe. Pedro Neto, 60 mil. Injury record concerns me somewhat. I've got to be honest. João Felix is a mystery. And it isn't needed when you look at the rest of the squad. Dewsbury Hall is Maresca's guy. So I kind of get it. But my concern there is that, are you ever going to put him in front of all these superstars that you've just brought? I don't know. And then it's just the size, isn't it? There's just a lot of players there. There's a lot of players. Will Felix make Chelsea better? No, says Hyla. I think it's an uh-oh, isn't it? I think there's alarm bells. I think we're concerned. We just you just don't know between now and the end, and it's definitely a new way of doing things, for sure. I would love to know. I'd love to ask the ownership: are you happy with the window? Interesting, but they have locked in Cole Palmer, so every cloud. Brighton. See, Brighton, this is the thing. This is where there's maybe a little bit of contradiction here, where you kind of go, well, hang on a minute. So what? We're all right with Brighton, are we? Because Brighton have got a pretty juicy squad themselves here. A lot of players. I think what makes it different for me is the players that you're bringing in and the players that are kind of going. And they've kind of earned the right to do this because of the money that they've brought in because of Chelsea. With the likes of Caicedo and Basuma, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, Basuma went to Tottenham. But the players that come in, first of all, Rutter, I mean, is a really exciting player. Could get to that João Pedro level in time. Don't hold me to that. Minte, I think we've seen is really, really exciting. And they've seen an opportunity there for a 19-year-old who was brilliant last year. Vifa, I think, is really, really good. And of course, the big loss here is Pascal Gross. But again, you've got to let players go at the right kind of time, if that makes sense. And I think with Pascal Gross, that's probably as close. It's like the final chance to get a few pennies out of him. Can there be more money made? To get 26 million for Undav, I think is really, really interesting. Goes back to my point with Crystal Palace that if you've got a striker, you just get more money for them overall. They're 135 million in the red. But again, the profile of the players, 22, 19, 24, 20, 19, 18, 19, 21, 21. It's really, they're sort of assets that I think are probably going to get enough games overall. If they did it again and again and again, I think you'd be concerned. But I think something's happening here. I've got to be honest. I think, as I said, I've said numerous times, Brighton could finish 12th, they could finish 3rd. But I think they're really fun. I think they're really exciting. They've got a lot of wingers, a lot of attacking players, a lot of people that can win attacking duels. And they've got exciting players up front. You know, Evan Ferguson, João Pedro, Rutter, Welbeck, who just continues to defy us all. So I think something's happening there. And I think they've had a good one. They've spent a lot. It needs to work, but I think it probably will. Brentford always prove us wrong, guys. They always prove us wrong, so we've got to be careful here. We must beware hubris. But when I do look at the squad, and with the thing with Ivan Toney, I think they must have, knowing Brentford, they'll have players ready to go. They're going to buy players as soon as they can. That's right. Matt O'Reilly, to Brighton in the next 24 hours as well, which I think, again, is a good, exciting signing for them. To Brentford. And when I go through the squad, you've got to kind of get out of your way in terms of like the names, because actually there's a lot of players here that have played in the Premier League for a good few seasons now and have absolutely contributed. I worry about the left-back situation. I think they need another left-back. I think overall it feels a light and tight squad, so injuries are going to be important. But I do think they want to get that Ivan Toney deal done now in some way, shape or form to get himself some money to go and, you know, get themselves sorted out. Because I think if they have bad injuries this time round with the quality of the squads and the depth of squads elsewhere, I think it could make life very, very difficult for them. But I always take that with a massive pinch of salt. I'm going to put them in uh-oh. But again, I get it. And I understand why Brentford fans are like, what are you doing, mate? Why are you putting them there? But I just don't think you bring it. Like Carvalho, I really like. Wissa, I think is brilliant. And I think they're continuing to like be sensible. But in terms of a transfer window that they can be absolutely excited about, I think any Brentford fan would understand that you wanted more money for Toney earlier. So in terms of the window working out for you, it's not really happened. And obviously the Liverpool centre-back, I want to say Van der Berg, might be coming in. But weirdly, that's the sort of one area of the picture I don't think they need a centre-back. Maybe I'm missing something. But I'm going to put Brighton in uh-oh. But it means nothing. It's just a bit of fun. All right. Bournemouth. Bournemouth are a goalie away from having just a smart window. They knew they were going to lose Solanke. Can you get as much money as possible for Solanke? Yes, we can, said Bournemouth. They brought in Evan Nilsson. I'll be honest, I don't know enough about him. Unal, I think there's a good player there, maybe not at Solanke's level. He needs to stay fit. But then you've got a lot of exciting players on that left wing, which is great. Sinistera, Kluivert, Jayden Anthony's still, I think he's a solid player. Semenyo, I think, has gone from strength to strength. The midfield, I think you could do with one more like proper DM. But maybe Tyler Adams, if he's fit, then you're fine. But can you get another one just in case you have some problems there? Philip Billing can play there, but Lewis Cook can play there. But maybe just, one more that's just that little bit more defensive. And the left-back situation as well is maybe something you want to kind of get done. But the continued growth of Bournemouth, I think, is something that Bournemouth fans can be really, really happy with. In terms of money spent, they are 20... And that's the other thing, sorry, with Brentford, just quickly. They are currently 23 in the red, which is interesting, isn't it? Because the Thiago one has not worked out as of yet because he's been injured, right? Solanke, you've got a solid amount of money there. They spent some money themselves. We will find out, and this is the problem, this is the risk with strikers at all times. Evan Nilsson and Unal, strikers cost money. So that's why they're going to spend that little bit extra. But they've been pretty smart in recent years. So Bournemouth... I think it's been solid. I'm going to go it's good, but is it good? I don't think... I think if you'd kept Solanke, then something's happening here. Do you know what I mean? But you didn't. So, we move. Right, where are we off to? Okay, Aston Villa. Now, remember, guys, you will be deciding, alongside myself, who has won the window so far. Aston Villa. I think it's been an complicated summer for Aston Villa. Lots of change. But when we look at this squad and we see, let's chuck some recency bias in there. You've got John Duran, who I think is staying now. I think it means, didn't he go like that? I'm staying. And scored a great goal against West Ham. Great goal. So, and they let Archer go, which I thought was interesting. Because I do fear if Watkins ever gets injured, then that has to be a concern. You want someone else to kind of step in and fill it. And we're now looking at Villa in a different way. And I think Morgan Rogers, young, growing, will grow and continue to get better. Leon Bailey needs a big season. Buendia has had obviously difficulties with injury. Jacob Ramsey, huge season for him. Ross Barkley, that little bit older. Tillerman's big season for him. John McGinn, can he keep going and take it up a notch as well? And when I say take it up a notch, it's because you're playing in the Champions League. It's because the expectations are much higher and the opposition are even more switched on from a subconscious level. Left back situation looks really good. Maatsen, Moreno's gone alone. Luca Dean being there as well. Centre back situation looks really, really strong as well. Pau Torres, one of the most underrated centre backs in the league. So the squad overall, and Martinez signed till I think it's 2029. So he's going to finish his career at Aston Villa. So all of those things positive. Obviously, you've lost Douglas Luiz, and there has been a lot of concerns when it comes to bringing in money and PSR and all those things, but you've wiggled around that one in terms of Tim Bunham. I can't remember who went the other way. Was it Dobbin? Brought in Dobbin. Yeah. And if you're going to lose Douglas Luiz, then you want to be able to bring in play. You're never going to bring the exact same player, but Onana, I think, has an incredibly high ceiling. And Ian Maatsen at 22 is only going to get better. Philigine's only going to get better. I think it's a solid squad. Is something happening here? My belief is that it's one where you need to get through this year and it's about maybe next year. But to not be in any kind of trouble, and then you're going to have that Champions League money coming in and getting some good bunts for 60 mil for Diaby. Look, you just shake your hand and go fair play. And the academy doing bits for you as well. I think overall it's pretty steady. Time will tell, of course. It's good, but is it good? I think I'm going to go there. But Villa have got a massive opportunity to really shut me up this year. Because it is a good squad. And, of course, Arsenal. Now, I just thank you to the chat. Here we land. There we land. Landing here and there. Moreno has been signed. Which changes absolutely bloody everything, does it not? And by the way, these screenshots are from this morning. So if they're not updated, I apologise. But it's the best I can do. And I just, always want to try and visualise stuff for you. So please don't get too angry at me. It'll be interesting if Nketiah goes in terms of just having a body to play up front. It becomes Havertz and Jesus, but I think in Havertz, him and Saka could be a real relationship this year. Something we're thinking of doing a video on actually in time. It's a tight squad. Can he trust all of them? I think defensively they look incredibly strong. Calafiori offers that versatility at the back. Alongside Jurgen Timber coming back. Ben White can play in a few different positions as well. So really, really strong from that point of view. Look, I think when a team goes and does as well as it's done, you just don't want to be losing this group or losing players that you don't want to lose from this group. I think try and get some money from Aaron Ramsdale, solid money from Aaron Ramsdale, and then you'll feel a bit different as well about the window as well. And I think Moreno is a steady player. Could he be their sort of Gundogan in the sense of when you really need a guy to get you a goal, is Moreno going to be that guy? I think he's a good, solid signing for them, that sometimes he's not going to fit in the team, other times he's going to be absolutely integral. And again, I like the sort of I like the value exchange of the whole squad with Arsenal. Something's happening here. It is. Do they need a striker? Is there? I think the point is with Arsenal is that they're not gonna. Can they get goals from elsewhere? That's something they've absolutely wanted to do. Can they? We did a podcast on the Ripple Effect talking about XG with James Tippett, who's written books about it, and he was saying about that's the big thing for Arsenal, building XG, which they do through winning aerial duels, set pieces, all those things. So they've got those other aspects that have allowed them to get the points that they've been able to get, and of course aren't conceding XG either because of the size of the team as well. So the overall squad is really strong. You do wonder just that one Haaland, don't get angry, but that Harry Kane guy, that is the one concern. Could they go and get that? And if you've not got Nketiah, could you be at the bare bones in terms of the central areas? That would be my only concern. But I think it's a kind of steady one for Arsenal. It's good, but is it good? I'm going to go there. I think that's okay. But I think overall they're fine, aren't they? So the big question becomes, who has won the window? Get your view into the chat ASAP. Let me know in the comments below. If you're enjoying this video, hit the subscribe button. We might do some more lives. And, of course, hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss a live. The winner. I think the winner of the window, I think it could be, I think it's Brighton or Ipswich or West Ham. What does everyone think? We've got Brighton, we've got Ipswich. Chelsea, says Gurav. Interesting. Brighton easily. I think that. In terms of moving forward, Man United have moved forward a lot. I think for what they could do, Ipswich have had a bloody go, and I like it. West Ham, it feels a bit more precarious. I'm going to have to go with Brighton. Some people are saying Man City, but they haven't made that many moves, have they, really? I think it's Brighton. What do you guys think? Thank you so much for spending a bit of time with me. Love you all. You are wonderful.